and by, oh by and by, there's a better world awaiting. We can build it, you and I. There's a better way of living, filled with honor, trust, and pride. In a circle made of equals, take my hand, friend, and stand by my side. Will the circle be unbroken? By and by, oh by and by, there's a better world awaiting. We can build it, you and I. We can build a world of friendship. We can cause our war to cease. If we choose to trust each other, we can walk in the bright path of peace. Will the circle be unbroken? By and by, oh by and by, there's a better world awaiting. We can build it, you and I.
Amen, and thank you to our BUUF musicians. I think that was Candace on the piano and Gretchen as the vocalist, I think. But either way, it came from our BUUF musicians, so wonderful thing, thank you. Good morning, friends. I want to extend a warm welcome to you today. Everyone is welcome here. This community is a safe place where we support each other in the sacred task of becoming, celebrate the transcending mystery of life, and rely on the transforming power of love. Today and every Sunday in May, our theme is Peace for All. We are very fortunate to have a special guest speaker, Trenton Bowens from Neighbors Organizing Against Racism. Welcome, Trenton. We're glad you are here and looking forward to your talk. Additionally, because it is Pledge Month, Reverend Roger Brewin will have a few words for us on generosity, and Ralph Hybutsky has an original song he will sing for us on the same topic. We also have another great story for all ages and lots of good music. Tina Eberly and her daughters Aurelia, Althea, and Caroline will do our Chalice work. After the service is over, you will have the opportunity to stick around and join in our break rooms and circle talk. Stay if you can. These sharing times are the most important parts of the service. And now we move to our announcements, I would like to make an addition to one of our announcements. Thursday, late afternoon at 5 o'clock, we will be having a tree planting ceremony for B. Takeuchi, who is has been a very important member of our society for a long, long time. It is her 100th birthday, and we're hoping that those who knew her will come, because we're actually going to have an in-person service outside. So come if you can, especially if you be and are vaccinated. So, are there other additions or corrections that need to be made to the announcements? Printed at the end of your bulletin. If not, let's continue with our affirmation. No, not our affirmation, our building a new way, our hymn for today, opening hymn.
We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We can feed our every need. Every need. We can feed our every need. Every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way, a new way, a new way, a new
Amen, and thank you. That was a great way to open the service. Now, Tina, Aurelia, Althea, and Caroline will light our chalice.
We kindle this chalice flame because there is darkness in our world. The shadows of injustice, oppression, hunger, and pain fill too many lives with gloom. We light this small flame not because it will vanquish all darkness, but because it is a start. Because rather than condemn the dark, we have chosen to bring light.
Excellent. Thank you, Tina. Very beautiful, very beautiful words. And now when our affirmation words appear on the screen, let us read them together. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. So our next item is Story for All Ages, Peaceful Fights for Equal Rights, written by Rob Sanders.
Hi everyone, it's Gisa from Butterfly Garden. Today's story is called Peaceful Fights for Equal Rights, written by Rob Sanders and illustrated by Jared Andrew Score. Assemble, take action, create allies. Make buttons, make banners, make bumper stickers too. Boycott, boycott, boycott. Chant, cheer, call someone, campaign, camp out. Demonstrate, don't give up, don't give in. Educate, encourage, and endure. Be fearless, fly a flag, file a lawsuit, have faith. Give time, give strength, give money if you can. Shake a hand, lend a hand, have hope, be hope. Inquire, inform, imagine, invite. Join others on the journey, join others in the fight. Knit a hat, take a knee. Listen, learn, lead. Light a candle, write a letter, pass laws. March, mediate, meditate, motivate. Never stop. Organize, organize, organize. Parade, picket, post, persist, persevere. Ask questions, never quit, quietly do what's right. Read, remember, resist. Stand up, speak out, sit down, sing loud. Be silent. Strike. Turn up the volume. Unite. Vote, volunteer, keep vigil, be nonviolent, wear it, wave it, work for it, write about it. Explain change, exemplify change, expect change. You can only do what you can do, so do it. Be zealous. In the 1950s and 1960s, America witnessed nonviolent, peaceful protests on large scale. The movement was rooted in the philosophies of Henry David Thoreau, who in 1849 wrote the essay Civil Disobedience. Mahatma Gandhi practiced the principles of nonviolence in India in the 1930s, but it was Dr. Martin Luther King who became well known and well respected as an advocate for the use of peaceful protests in the United States. In 1957, Dr. King wrote The Power of Nonviolence. Even before that, he had begun teaching about the philosophy of nonviolence and using it in protests for African American civil rights. Cesar Chavez used nonviolent protests in the 1960s to organize farm workers and later to gain rights for Hispanics. Those civil rights movements were followed by peaceful anti-war protests and by protests for women's rights, gay rights, the environment, voter rights, and more. Not all peaceful protests are organized by large groups. When a person votes, he or she might actually be protesting. Sometimes people write a letter to express an opinion or sing a song of protest, or stop buying certain products or shopping at certain stores while other people might buy a product to show their support of a particular view. Some might wear a specific t-shirt or button, put a bumper sticker on their car, knit a hat, post on social media, or fly a flag to share their views and opinions in nonviolent ways. Others might light a candle, meditate about positive changes they wish to see, or pray. Some people file lawsuits in the hopes of overturning laws or creating new ones. In The Power of Nonviolence, Dr. King explained that the ultimate goal of nonviolent protest is not to humiliate or defeat the opponent, but to win his friendship and understanding. Dr. King said the outcome of nonviolent protest would be reconciliation and the creation of a beloved community. Shake a hand, lend a hand, have hope, and be hope. Thank you for joining us. Please support our channel by liking and subscribing.
Oh, man, thank you very much. That story was chosen by our own DRE, Catherine Lyon. So thank you, Catherine, a very good choice. And now, because it's one of our pledge drive Sundays, Roger Brewin, the Reverend Roger Brewin, will speak to us on that topic.
Thanks, Jim. You asked me to prepare 3 to 5 minutes on why I financially support BUUF and why others should too. So I'm going to tell you 4 of my least favorite things about BUUF. Almost complaints, just on the edge of being a grumpy old man. But each one of them turns out to be a pretty good reason for being generous with this free religious community of ours. First, BUUF these days is a pretty spiritual place, and I'm just not spiritually inclined. I'm an atheist and a materialist. Most days I can do just fine without most spiritualities. But unlike some churches, BUUF spirituality is not top down. It's not dictated by the minister or voted on by the worship committee. Our spirituality bubbles up from the membership, diverse and free form, an expression of our individual and collective human spirit, the one type of spirituality I'm really at home with. Second, BUUF Sunday services are just this side of chaotic, with a different cast of people each week. Some singing, some reading, playing instruments, some streaming videos, some preaching, some telling stories, some chalice lighting. I often come close to thinking, this is all going to fall apart. But amazingly, it doesn't. Oh, we stumble, a technical glitch here, an out of order poem there, with mutual appreciation for all the efforts in high gear and Jim's deft master, this circus satisfies Sunday after Sunday. Third, after the service, we let everybody talk. I mean, everybody. No restrictions, no censorship, no practice. In the breakouts and in the circle, everybody talks. Everybody. Now, couldn't that kind of free-for-all get a little ugly? Anyone in our circle could act out, could be unkind, could rant on and on without stopping. but again and again we gather as the people and we do it well, like rational and respectful friends should. We've been doing it well for decades, passing the talking stick, passing the microphone, and now typing our name in the chat. Voluntary discipline, all good practice for how humans ought to get along. Fourth and finally, we follow the UUA's bureaucratic lead and call our adult programming intentional faith development. What a miserable phrase. What a terrible way to describe good friends getting together on a Wednesday night to learn something new. Intentional faith development. I hate all three words. Intentional, much too much finger wagging in that one. Faith, as one of my humanist friends said, faith is believing in what you know isn't true. And development, shorthand for the dreaded Protestant work ethic. But my experience of BUUF's gatherings to do intentional faith development is that they are relaxed, participatory, fun, and the very opposite of dogmatic. So, four of my least favorite things: spirituality, disorganized worship, uncivil conversation, and most varieties of faith. And four very good reasons to support BUUF financially: human spirit, chaotic creativity, voluntary discipline, all faithfully deranged. Arranged. Please pledge generously.
Thank you, Roger. That was magnificent. Very good. Roger, it's good to have a grumpy old man part of the congregation. Every congregation needs one. So
Yep.
Thank you. And now Ralph Habitsky will bring us an original piece.
Read between the lines of the great divide. That data miner's coming and there's nowhere you can hide. They're getting closer to you and I all the time. Well, ride on, fight on, it's time to take a stand. Put your money where your mouth is before things get out of hand. Join the micro army today before the dream goes MIA. They're getting closer all the time, but so are we. They're getting closer all the time, but so are we. Tired of swimming up against it all the time, running in place for a buck and a dime. There's no pennies from heaven falling on our bottom lines. But we don't have to settle when it's time to turn the page. Pooling our dollars and our dreams every day. Maximum impact without a minimum wage. They're getting closer every time, but so are we. They're getting closer every time, but so are we. That's right. DIY means doing it yourself. You don't need a high sign from anybody else. Lightning strikes when like minds meet like minds, and we won't fall for the same old every time. No, it means we won't fall for the same old every time. So ride on, fight on, it's time to take a stand. Put your money where your mouth is before things get out of hand. Join the micro army today before the dream goes MIA. They're getting closer every time, but so are we. They're getting closer every time, but so are we. They're getting closer every time, but so are we. They're getting closer every time, but so are we. That's right.
Thank you, Ralph. A word of hope. We are getting closer all the time. And now let's move to our offering. And we'll read these words together. This fellowship is the community of ourselves. Its resources are our resources. Its wealth is what we share. As we contribute to the life of this community, we affirm our lives within it. And thank you all for your generosity as you continue to support BUUF.
In the rain, blinded, I'll show you. Don't you worry, 'cause I've been with you all along.
Oh, I ain't worried, 'cause I can feel it, 'cause I can feel it. Yeah, they said it's hard to really see it and the reason why we living. Don't chase it with your eyes, can recognize it till it's given. The world in front of me became the molding of my vision. The pain that came to me is what I blame in my decisions. How can I find the courage when my heart is feeling missing? How do I find a time when I know that the clock is ticking? I'm a soldier for this love is guaranteed to be my mission. Wish I could find it easy like I see it in the children. Hey, looking back as I move forward, Sankofa, I want a love that explodes, call it a supernova. What it takes to reach the heavens, let me stand closer. Put the pieces all together, witness Jehovah. God is patient with a sunny plant the seed and let it grow. When I love it unconditional, I learn to let it go. Open your arms, what I'm talking about. Without a doubt, I can feel the love reaching out.
Love reaches out. My love reaches out. Love reaches out. Love reaches out.
My love reaches out. Can you feel it? Yeah. I'm never giving up, I'm keeping cool, I'm in control. My praise, I give it up, a higher power's in control. This light is guiding me, I'm armed with everything I know. This love is getting closer, I can feel it in my soul. Long as I am living, I still got the time to show the patience that was given from the ones that let me grow. Forgive me for debating back and forth to and fro. This love is reaching out, I'm giving it to you and yours. Walk with me in solidarity. My sanctuary eases my disparity. When I look into your eyes, I'm looking carefully. What do you know? There is me. No more questioning the things that I can never see. Touch, taste, smell, hear, no more mystery. Just a faith that's stronger than my pain and misery. I found it in myself and it will forever be. The breath of love that gave me the breath of life. A breath of life, spirits give it back and I energize. If I never take another, let my voice come to speak it out. And give you the feeling of love reaching out.
Love reaches out.
Yes, it does.
My love reaches
and I can feel it, I can feel it, I can feel it. Hey.
My love reaches out. My love reaches out.
Can you hear it? Can you hear it? Can you hear it now? Oh yes, it does. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Hey.
Change you, let it grow. The seeds will reap the love you sow. Fill your heart till it explodes, and love can
take away your soul. The broken souls without a key. He falls through patience and honesty. Trust, love, and just let it be. Feel the power of love between you and me. Between you and me. Between you and me. Feel the power of love between you and me. Love reaches out.
Feel it now.
My love reaches out.
Can you hear it? Can you hear it? Can you hear it now?
My love reaches out.
Love reaches out.
When it's cold outside, my love gonna reach out and warm your soul.
Amen. Good choice by our BUUF musicians. Very, very lovely and appropriate for today. Before I begin my short reading, I need to do a little explaining. I operate out of one of many humanist religious/theological theories. That theory is that the gods and goddesses, as well as characters in religious and popular stories like Moses, the Buddha, Demeter, Lex Luthor, or Jabba the Hutt, represent different elements of the human psyche. These elements are called archetypes. The archetypes are ways of keeping mental parts of ourselves out in the open so that they can be managed. We are a very delightful and dangerous species. We need to manage both the delightful and the dangerous parts of ourselves. That is what religion and psychology do. In this essay, when I talk about our inner Derek Chauvins, I'm talking about the cruel and destructive elements of our psyches. When I talk about Derek Chauvin, the person, I'm talking about a person with a full complement of archetypes and is therefore capable of great love and great cruelty. Okay, explanation over. Every Sunday, we begin our worship service with the words, "We rely on the transforming power of love. It is our imperative to love the world." The question is, how do we love the world? Part of the answer is we love the world by first learning to love ourselves. It is a fundamental equation in the calculus of transformation that we can only love the world to the extent that we love ourselves. In an interesting convergence, Friedrich Nietzsche, who famously said, "God is dead," and Jesus, who even more famously said, "Love God with all your heart," had an interesting intersectionality of ideas. Both Nietzsche and Jesus thought that to really be whole, to really be human, we had to be as little children. What in the world could two such divergent thinkers have meant? A friend of mine has just returned from a trip to visit his daughter, son-in-law, and two grandchildren, ages 3 and 5, in South Carolina. He confessed that it was something of an endurance test for him. His grandkids were, during his visit, often very delightful little creatures, and just as often miserable little wretches. In other words, they were pretty normal little kids. So what did Jesus and Nietzsche see in small kids that we need to emulate? It seems likely that it was not behavior. What is more likely is that children have all of themselves available to themselves, whereas we adults have learned to put the wretched parts of ourselves aside and keep them out of sight. So out of sight that we mostly no longer see or realize that we have destructive sides to our natures. Unfortunately, the destructive sides of our natures are, even though mostly hidden from us, still energized through our organism. When we do not claim that energy, it can escape and become evil. This, in my opinion, is precisely what happened with Derek Chauvin, the person, the day he killed George Floyd. His pent-up dark energies, his inner Derek Chauvin, was unleashed. This is real. There is real relief and enjoyment when the destructive is released after many months or years of being pushed into the darkness. Evil is often enjoyable for the evildoer. Chauvin probably relished his sense of power over Floyd, so much so that even after Floyd was dead, he continued to kneel for another 2.5 minutes on his neck. It is also likely that while those in the crowd of onlookers were horrified at the scene unfolding before them, that there was, for some of them at least, a sense of thrill and excitement. When Chauvin was declared guilty last month, there was much jubilation. Chauvin was guilty and doesn't need to face justice. It seems to me, however, that our most appropriate response is not jubilation, but somber realization that it is the merest accident of fate that it was Derek Chauvin in the docket and not you or me. Back to imperative. It is our job to love the world. We love the world by first loving ourselves, all of ourselves. This even includes our inner power-loving delights in cruelty, death, and the misery of others, inner Derek Chauvin. It is a cinch that if we do not learn to love our inner Derek Chauvins, we will never learn to love the actual Derek Chauvin and the world of which he and we are all a part. Loving the world, remember, is our imperative. We started this small essay with a fundamental equation of transformation, which is we can only love the world to the extent we love ourselves. There is, however, a corollary to this equation. That corollary is when we accept our inner Derek Chauvins as parts of ourselves, their dark energies become available to us to use in creating a better world. Their darkness is transformed and becomes a part of our light. And here's some even better news. When we love our inner Derek Chauvins, our darkness is transformed into a holy light, a light that emerges with and becomes one with the light of the world. Amen. And now we turn towards Trenton Bowen from NOAR, Neighbors Organizing Against Racism. Trenton.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you, BUUF. You guys been a supporter, and we actually go way back. It's so funny to see Julie. We go way back when in my youth and government days. The title that I'm going to talk about is Keep Pressing. Oh gosh, let me stop it. It's called Keep Pressing. And I understand the different aspects of it, so I apologize if it offends anyone. But for those of you that are familiar with biblical texts, in the book of Acts, chapter 28 and verse 3, Paul was getting some sticks and a poisonous viper snake bit him, and he just shook the snake off. And people were watching to see, gosh, this man just got bit by a snake and he should be dead, and he wasn't dead. He just kept going. And that's where I say we have to keep pressing. We must keep pressing for equality for our Black brothers and sisters in our LGBT community. When acts of hatred and violence are done, we must speak out and stand up. And we must remember that we are stronger together. We did that with George Floyd. And, you know, it's sad it took white America to wake up. And you had to be killed on video recording so white America could see what was going on. And it's even sadder that it had to be videotaped for him to get justice. Nevertheless, we still must keep pressing, and we must keep pushing. We must keep pushing and demonstrating no matter what happens. We know locally that African Americans in Benton Harbor, especially in Benton Harbor, have experienced a high level of racism. We've experienced redlining. We've seen the system work with laws that create injustice and acts against our African American brothers and sisters or our LGBT community. That's why my organization, Neighbors Organizing Against Racism, we have taken the stance of educating and creating a dialogue. Just this year alone, it's kind of like, gosh, it's May, but for the past 4 months, we've had community book reads, The Other Side of the River. Even with that book, I made some Caucasian people, white people mad about the book because they didn't see a lot of Black people reading that book. I think we only had 2 or 3. And then when you look at it, Black people didn't create racism. But even if you read the book, The Other Side of the River, we don't have to read the book. We live the other side of the river. Just yesterday, my heart goes out to that family. A Black single mother have not have lost 2 kids. She has 3 boys. She's lost 2 of them a year apart due to gun violence. So we don't have to read the other side of the river. We live it. But we were able to bring Alex Kosowitz in to that discussion, and it was amazing to see how some of our participants, at first they said they think he was killed, and then after that, they said different. It was amazing to see their opinion. We've had the infamous Jane Elliott, and if those of you that were on with Jane Elliott, hi cousins. Jane Elliott is a firehouse. She tells it how it is. I think that woke people up. It made people understand that white people come from Africa. There's no white, there's no black. You are just afraid of brown. And it was amazing that we had a white woman to come in and educate our people. She explained that those of you that are in the Christian faith, you believe that white Jesus in that picture that you see is not the white Jesus you are really worshiping. He's a he's a dark-skinned Ethiopian. And it was amazing to see. We've started our weekly Wine Wednesday discussions where we've talk about race. We talk about white saviorism. We talk about those hardcore situations that you would feel uncomfortable with, but we bring them to the forefront. It's small, but we Facebook Live, and we talk about that. We talk about, gentrification. That's one of the biggest issues Benton Harbor is fearful of, is gentrification. We allow white people to explain how they feel, and we allow Black people to explain what they see. And we've learned more. We don't always agree, but it's always a learning environment. I just want to remind you that we must keep pushing. After George Floyd protest and everything, everybody died down and everybody went back to normal. But just along in Berrien County, I think I got an email from the race relations. 40% of the people that are in jail are African Americans. And Benton Harbor versus St. Joe, or you can even put it in Stevensville or Lincoln Township, people in Benton Harbor die at a quicker rate than the people across the bridge. If we want to really address this, we have to continue to agitate, demonstrate, and create that dialogue. We have to keep pushing and keep pressing. Even with the Berrien County Jail, this coming month, next month, I can't believe it's June, we'll be rolling out our Berrien County Bail Fund, and we're going to be having a town hall with the public defender, the head of the public defender's office. It just doesn't affect Black people or African Americans, or it affects all people. Just like 2 years ago, I had a friend that was in jail. His bond was $300. He could not afford that. And he stayed in jail for 30 days. He lost a family member, couldn't even go to the family reunion. We know we have people that can't afford bail, but we also have people that can't even afford tether fines. By implementing this Berrien County Bail Fund, we will be able to provide assistance and help to them. And it's not, you'd be surprised about this. So that's one thing where we're going to keep pushing. Until we lower the incarceration rate and look at providing resources, such as, are we locking people up because they have mental health or their substance abuse? Or should we be able to provide resources and say, maybe you need to go to Sacred Heart Recovery Center in Berrien Springs, a detox, or maybe you need help. Maybe you need to be with the Riverwood or a counselor. We'll be able to provide that avenue. That's what neighbors do. We look out for each other, right? We also will be introducing this summer the Berrien County Racial Equity Pledge, which will allow citizens and businesses to sign up on making sure we have an equitable community. This will be a county solution across the board. Once we look at the graduation rate, just look at the graduation rate in 2017, 700 people graduated in Berrien County. Out of that 700, only 200 of them were people of color. And if you really want to look at that math, most of those people of color were from Andrews University. So we have to look at how do we make sure that we are getting our students equipped from Benton Harbor to start college and finish college? What are some of those barriers and how do we do it? Let's look, it's amazing that the city of Benton Harbor will finally have a grocery store downtown, but that shouldn't be the only place. Let's look at the food deserts and why. Let's look at the water issue that we're having in Benton Harbor. What affects Benton Harbor can affect St. Joe. It's often when I talk to a St. Joe City Commissioner, she says, the prices of rent are raising in Benton Harbor, in St. Joe, and my constituents can barely afford to live in St. Joe. And I was just telling her, I understand. Just yesterday I was looking at a place and they went at $1,300 a month, and the average Benton Harbor cannot. It's going to take us as collective citizens, Black, white, St. Joe, Benton Harbor, Coloma, and wherever, to stand up and fight against these policies that can have a negative effect on us. It's also a daunting task because in order to have a thriving community, you need a strong tax base. So I understand, but I also understand there's always a solution to provide. Neighbors organizing against racism, it's been rough. I would be naive to tell you it's been easy. It's been rough. When we first started, everybody was in the hoopla with George Floyd. Then we had some people on our board that had to resign. It became for show, but we're still pushing. And that's what I wanted to remind you. No matter what, you'll see me in Stevensville, you'll see us in Coloma, you'll see us in Benton Harbor, Waterville, St. Joe, wherever we need to go. We will make people realize Black lives in Berrien County do matter. We will protest if we have to protest for equitable school funding, for communities such as Benton Harbor, where we raise property taxes for education. We got to get rid of that. It's not working, as you can see. We will protest. We will go to Pauline Winslow's office. We will go to Kim Lasada's office. We will do whatever is necessary to make them feel uncomfortable and make them respond. Did you know that our own state representatives still haven't even said the words Black Lives Matter? And two of the biggest communities in their district is Benton Harbor and Benton Township. So we have to keep pushing, be persistent, and contend to the faith, contend to what we are set out to be. The road will not be easy. And I understand it's a daunting task, but keep pushing. And that's it for me.
And amen. Thank you. Thank you, Trenton. That was very lovely. And I love that phrase, make people uncomfortable. Yeah, that's what we need to keep doing. We need to keep making the right people uncomfortable. And maybe we need to experience a little discomfort ourselves. So thank you for that lovely message. And now our hymn.
Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Shalom, Shalom. Lehi Shalom, Shalom. Farewell, my friends, farewell, my friends, farewell, farewell. We'll see you again, we'll see you again.
Amen. And now Tina, Aurelia, Althea, and Caroline will extinguish our chalice. And I'm wondering if Althea has her puppy to show us while she does that.
The puppies are napping, but I'll bring the computer in there after Aurelia extinguishes the chalice to show you.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. We care in our hearts until we are together again.
Amen. Thank you. Well read, Aurelia. And now let us continue with our musical benediction. sleeping puppies. Oh, very cute little creatures.
They are.
Thank you, Tina. Go in peace, friends.